Hi, this is Dean Vlamis. Welcome to another edition of Real Talk. Today we're in Hinsdale, Illinois at the offices of the Compass Real Estate. We're going to be talking with Amy Duong Kim, one of the top agents in the city, and actually making a name for herself out here in the suburbs now too. Amy's been in the business for 18 years, first at a family-owned shop, then went off on her own, and it's consistently grown, recognized, as I mentioned, as one of the top in the industry based on her volume. We're going to get her take on last year's market, which was challenging, and what to expect for the new year. Welcome to an edition of Real Talk. I'm Dean Vlamis, and as I mentioned, we're here with Amy Duong Kim from Compass Real Estate, and their office is here in Hinsdale, Illinois. And we actually have some sun out today, so what a beautiful day to actually do this. We're coming off a very interesting year. It's January 2023. Well, this past year was right after the 2-year lockdown and pandemic where we saw record low interest rates and everything flying off the shelf. So we're going to talk about the changes we've seen and what we see coming in the future. So as I mentioned, last year in interest rates was incredibly volatile with rising interest rates and a lot of concerns that one of the main stories in the real estate market. So we're going to get Amy's feedback on what she saw and how that affected her industry and her market. Let's talk interest rates. How did that affect this past year, and what did you see with potential buyers and sellers, how it affected them?
Well, first off, thank you so much for having me. This is such a pleasure.
And you know, I need a cheat sheet. She doesn't, so there we go. Yes.
No. So, yes, first off, thank you so much for having me. But the past year was so crazy. We actually sold all of our inventory, all of our sales were predominantly in the first half of 2022. And the second half of 2022, July through December, was completely slowed down due to the rising interest rates. But when that occurred, we actually saw rising rent rates and rental prices. So with that happening, and in some markets up to 10% higher, it's really, with even this high over 6% rate right now compared to, let's say, 3% back in April or March of 2022, right. People are realizing they don't want to spend that money. So we are seeing a surge and an increase in interest coming into 2023.
So it's interesting because speaking about, interest rates dominated the market, I would get that it kind of leads into what I was going to talk about next or ask about is when is the right time to buy? So I would get people say, I'm going to hold off because I'm going to wait till rates go down. If someone's asking me when is the right time to buy, well, if you're asking me that question on the mortgage side, I would say now. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, how would you deal with that question when you'd get that?
It's always now. Right. It's always when you're prepared to. Sometimes people don't have the down payment. Sometimes people don't have the credit. But when you do have the opportunity to purchase, that is the right time to buy.
Right.
Because you have to live somewhere. So you might as well be living somewhere you can build equity, get home appreciation, and really, invest in yourself. So I always say, as long as you have the credit and you have the down payment, you should always purchase.
And I think that's important. I would remind people of there a few things. Let's say you're buying a place for $600,000 and you're going to wait for interest rates to go down a year. Well,
the conversation is interesting when you have an upgrading client or a downgrading client, like saying someone who has to downsize or someone who needs to get more space. That upgrade is easier because you need more space, but the downgrade is a little bit harder because they're very comfortable, obviously, with a 3% rate.
Well, I've had that before. They were going to downgrade, but to a smaller space, but it will cost them more
exactly.
now. So enjoy the big home and enjoy your interest rate, type of thing. So it's not a bad. That's an interesting time. But we're in January and things naturally pick up.
Yes.
How do you view the spring market then? What do you think?
It's not going to be as crazy as, well, you know what? It may get as crazy as last year, but I don't think it's going to be such a sudden, abrupt stop like it was last year. Because now buyers are comfortable or have become more comfortable with the interest rate. I hope that it won't increase further. And really, again, that the rental rates increasing are going to be a huge thing.
That's a huge thing. I didn't consider that. That's something to consider. Like it's money going nowhere. Then,
right? Definitely. Yeah. I mean, we're talking at least 10% increases in rents in some neighborhoods.
And that's a big deal when you do like those simple rent versus buy analysis, and you actually see how much money is going into rent versus what you could be creating in equity. The interest rate takes second position. It's not that big of a deal.
Definitely.
Knowing what you're doing with the rental rates. That's interesting.
And totally not even just interest rates. We have a lack of inventory as well. So I think there's a lot of need for homes. So, buyers are a little frustrated right now, but if they are able to, be open-minded to new locations and also be willing to do work, there's lots of options for them.
When buying a home, what do you consider? Everything's done online, right? But you
Yes.
still have to actually physically see the property. Then you
Yes.
can imagine that. So that's your job to help them imagine what's going to go here or there. Because I had zero. I just worried about. I'm still stuck in my 1980s. Where's my Miami Vice poster going to go, or my Rolling Stones poster, which doesn't create a home. So that's your job to fill in that blank, right? So.
I hope so.
So-
But yeah, visualizing what you will do with the space.
Right.
Having a good understanding of what work needs to be done, if work needs to be done, if you could see yourself in that home, if you can grow into the space. All of those things are questions that I ask, during showings and prior to
And
meeting.
to point out things. Sometimes I may get overexcited. You say, well, here's the reality. You have to point out certain things. though, too,
Things
like-
that people don't think about.
Right.
I hope that I provide, a different perspective
Right.
on when they're purchasing.
That's why I always say it matters who you work with. It absolutely does. I think in the mortgage industry and definitely in the real estate industry too. So that's something, it's really, really important to work with the right person. So thanks for your time, Amy. Amy Duong Kim, Compass Real Estate, one of the best in the business. Thanks, everyone.